Today, we're going to be ranking the top 10 abilities in Pokemon in my opinion. I based this 10 off of a few factors for these abilities, while trying not to be dictated solely by which Pokemon actually have access to them, and instead how they are on the whole when used in competitive and in a playthrough. There might be some abilities that really deserve to be featured as well, but of course I had to whittle it down to just 10 this time, so let's get right into it. So we start off the top 10 with an OG ability from back when they first were introduced in the 3rd generation, Levitate. Now Levitate is of course a really good ability thanks to the fact that it essentially can slap the effects of being a flying type onto a Pokemon without actually giving it the flying typing. The best move in the games for a lot of people is Earthquake, thanks to its availability on so many different Pokemon and excellent 100 base power. And the ability Levitate makes it and all ground type offensive moves completely impossible to hit unless a different ability like Mold Breaker gets involved. There's probably one famous Pokemon who used Levitate for so long that stands above the rest, and that of course is Gengar. It's a bit unfortunate that it no longer has the ability, but for the time it did have it, it most certainly benefited heavily. It was a Pokemon with the poison typing, so an Earthquake or possibly Earth Power would have absolutely trashed a Pokemon like Gengar with its lackluster defenses. However, now Gengar has to rely on its fantastic special attack and speed only to get past any ground type moves, which has surely hindered it a little bit for some people these last couple generations. You can get great mileage out of this ability in a competitive battle and during your gym challenge, so it makes for a nice one to put at number 10. Next up, we have the ability Adaptability, which will essentially make the boost from stab be double instead of just 50%. This one is really good, as Mega Lucario really put on display back in the day. For instance, thanks to Adaptability, its close combat would double in attack strength from 120 to 240 from stab, making it a move well worth the drop in defense and special defense. While Lucario is definitely a great example of how good the ability is, there are other Pokemon that make tremendous usage of it too, like Crawdaunt and Porygon Z. You'll even see it on Mega Beedrill, helping make it an even more threatening attacker. There will be a lot of ways it can help a Pokemon on a competitive team, and while using it on a Pokemon in-game too, as stab is always an important thing that's turned to, and powering it up even further can be well worth the slot in for the ability. The next ability we've got is Serene Grace, and it is another one that is related to moves as it'll double the chance of the secondary effects occurring. So for example, you guys know that usually Iron Head has a 30% chance to flinch the opponent, which is already some pretty decent odds. Well, with the effects of Serene Grace, you'll get a 60% chance instead to cause that flinch, and it goes from there. Scald, Air Slash, and Flamethrower are just a couple of other moves that see effects boosted from the ability, and there's plenty of moves that suddenly become more than just good moves. There's one Pokemon in particular that through the generations has made great usage of this ability, and that's Jirachi. It can have a moveset of Play Rough, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, and Meteor Mash that will leave in a great position to get super strong while constantly flinching out its opponents or crippling their physical attack with great odds to do so, thanks to the boost it gets from Serene Grace. Some of the most popular and powerful moves in a franchise tend to have secondary effects, so this ability gets great traction when you're doing a playthrough or battling some competitively. So this next one is an ability that's pretty exclusive, as only 2 Pokemon actually have it, but it's so darn good that it really isn't too much of a surprise that so few Pokemon have access to it. I'm of course talking about Dragonite and Lugia's Multiscale ability. So with Multiscale, if a Pokemon is at full HP, the damage it takes from any move will be cut in half, thus meaning there's potential for Dragonite to tank an Ice type attack, for instance. It's even more important for Lugia, as Multiscale effectively lets you act easily knowing that there's a good chance that no matter what move your opponent goes for, you probably won't get knocked out in one hit. I really wish more Pokemon had Multiscale as an ability, especially since you can actually continue to reuse it through a battle if you can get your HP back to full. That's what makes it pretty great during an in-game playthrough as well. Like say you're using Dragonite in a battle in one of the games, and you're in a position where you need to stall by healing. Well, you'll constantly keep getting the effects of Multiscale by healing back to full, thus meaning that if you have enough max potions, you'll probably win that tug of war. Multiscale makes it a lot easier to set up as well, whether it be a Dragonance of Dragonite or a Calm Mind of Lugia, as you'll know that in the very least, you should be able to take one hit and then be able to start hitting hard yourselves. It's a great ability that I just wish was more available. We've got another great ability here at number 6 that is really helpful with moves and can work in tandem with some items, and that ability is Shear Force. The effect from this ability is that all moves with secondary abilities get a 30% base power boost, but lose their secondary effects. So you can sort of look at this as being the weird brother ability to Serene Grace. To give you guys an example, when using a move like Ice Beam, you will no longer have a 10% chance to freeze the opponent, but the move will go from 90 base power to 117. It gets even better once you include a Life Orb. With Shear Force, you don't lose any of the HP you usually would. Now, while that is really good, Shear Force doesn't entirely wipe away secondary effects, as it doesn't include stuff like stat loss or self-inflicted damage as such. There is an interesting case of Flare Blitz though, since it'll obviously hurt the user, but also has a chance to burn the opponent, so it does get the boost from Sheer Force while also still hurting your Pokemon. It's a really interesting ability that, like Multiscale, is really good for a competitive team and can still be good in-game too. There are a few Pokemon that are easy enough to get, like Copperajah and Darmanitan, that can use the ability to be massive attackers for your team against the many challenges you will have to face when doing an in-game playthrough. Sheer Force is just absolute raw power that enhances a Pokemon's moveset, and it's probably the best of the abilities that focuses on boosting move power as opposed to a Pokemon's stats. Let us start off the second half of the list with an ability that is definitely a massive help for competitive potential while still having some in-game usage: Magic Guard. This one is a great ability that I again wish more Pokemon had, but the ones that do have it make use of it big time. Basically with Magic Guard, you can't take damage from anything that's not an attack, so stuff like being burned or poisoned means nothing to a Pokemon with the ability. That's already a really good effect, but it takes a step further by making your Pokemon completely immune to recoil damage, the weather, and entry hazards. Plus, you can't take Life Orb damage thanks to this ability, so you'll be able to make your moves stronger from it in a way as well. There are a few really good Pokemon that take advantage of this ability, like Alakazam and Clefable, but I have got to say that probably the best Pokemon to ever make usage of this ability has to be Sigilith. There's a classic old set for Sigilith, where it would run a Flame Orb with its Magic Guard and then use the move Psycho Shift to pass the burn on to its opponent. From there, it would set up with Cosmic Power to make its defenses better, and eventually, when maxing them out, turn the stored power to do massive damage while being able to tank any hits. A big part of why it was possible for Sigilith to be able to do that was thanks to not having the worry about switching in the Stealth Rocks and being able to pass on its burn while not taking any damage from it. It's crazy just how good this moveset actually was, and it was all due thanks to Magic Guard. Alright, so you guys remember when I mentioned earlier that Multiscale was a pretty exclusive ability with only 2 Pokemon? Well, this one is pretty exclusive too, though there are 12 Pokemon that have it, and only those 12 will ever have it probably. I'm of course talking about the ability Beast Boost, shared amongst the Ultra Beasts from Generation 7. The way that Beast Boost works is that for every Pokemon an Ultra Beast defeats, it'll see a 1-stage boost to its best stat. So if Stakataka manages to knock out a Pokemon, it'll receive a boost to its defense stat, as that would probably be its highest stat. It's a rather simple ability, but it doesn't change how powerful it can be in competitive or a playthrough. It's like Moxie, but instead of just having the attack stat go up, it could be any stat. That seems pretty darn good to me, but as you'll see with the next 2 abilities, it isn't the best of its kind. So what's better than getting stat boosts after defeating each Pokemon you face? Well, how about just starting the battle with a double attack stat? Here at number 3, we've got Huge Power and Pure Power, both the same ability with just 2 different names. Pure Power is exclusive to Meditite and Medicham, and Huge Power is scattered among a few other Pokemon. For example, it's an ability on Mega Mawile, which turns it into such a ridiculous threat on the battlefield. It's already got an incredibly defensive typing, and on top of that, moves like Iron Head and Play Rough. If it was at max attack with the Adamant Nature, its attack would be 305, and with Huge Power, it would double to 610. It's amazing when a Pokemon can be so defensively good already, but then receive such a gift on its offensive side. Honestly, it's a great ability on Pokemon in a competitive sense, as it can be built to be absolutely wall breakers when necessary. And it helps that half of the Pokemon with access to moves like these are Fairy types. You can get carried by a good Huge Power Pokemon in a playthrough too. Now we're at the penultimate ability for this top 10, and it's one of the most game-breaking ones that have ever been introduced, Speed Boost. This one is most famous for making Blaziken, and even more so, Mega Blaziken. Absolutely freaking broken Pokemon. A Pokemon can have some amazing attack stats, and perhaps not be the fastest Pokemon out there, But Speed Boost can fix that up real quick. At the end of each turn, Speed Boost activates, and after 6 turns, you'll find your Pokemon is at max speed. For some, speed is actually the most important stat in Pokemon, as being able to move before your opponent can result in some massive changes through the course of a battle. For instance, when a Pokemon is suddenly able to outspeed the rest of the field and can actually hit hard, being able to revenge KO it or even get a move off without priority becomes impossible. When it came to Mega Blaziken, it already had base 160 attack, so deciding to focus on maxing that out completely enabled it to just hit like an absolute truck, one-hitting other Pokemon in the process. Now with its speed boosting at the end of each turn, and with a move like Protect being a possible option to just get faster without leaving Blaziken open to an attack, it suddenly turns into a much bigger threat than before. I shouldn't forget the potential for running Baton Pass on it either, as there are some very horrifying Pokemon you can make fast with a plan like that. Speed Boost is just so good, and under a lot of circumstances, would have had the potential to be the best ability. But unfortunately, there is just one that's better than it. Well, it's actually 2 now as of the Isle of Armor DLC expansion for Sword and Shield, but they do the same exact thing. I'm of course talking about Protean and Libero, the abilities of Greninja and Cinderace, and I guess Kecleon too, but who really cares about that? It's all about these 2 powerful speedy starters and their ability to become any typing they want dependent on the move they use. This doesn't only mean you're getting a stab boost from the move that you're using, but it also means you're going to inherit the weaknesses and resistances of that typing as well. Protean and Libero go way beyond just offensive usage, and with proper strategizing and planning when putting together movesets, and in the heat of battle, you're going to be able to prepare yourselves for possibly anything. Let me give you guys an example here. Let's build a Greninja that has Skull, Dark Pulse, Hidden Power Steel, and Grass Knot. That isn't the best moveset ever, but I want to use it for this example, as a way of showing that with those moves, Greninja will either become Water, Dark, Steel, or Grass type. That means you're going to be able to resist every single typing in Pokemon except for fighting. And that is a pretty massive deal when it comes to the defensive side of a battle. Basically, the possibilities for how a battle can go are almost endless when the chance to change your typing on the fly with each turn is something that your opponent needs to be worrying about. This is just such a fantastic ability, and definitely what I consider to be the absolute best in the franchise. Well, that's going to do it for this top 10. And if you guys really enjoyed this one, I'd like to make another video in the future talking about more abilities. This is a really subjective type of list to put together, as we probably all have our own separate opinions when it comes to the 260 abilities that have existed over the last 8 generations. So I want to hear from you guys down below. Would you like me to talk about abilities again sometime? And also tell me what abilities you consider the best. I'll definitely be checking them out. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on, that way you never miss an upload. If you guys enjoyed this content, maybe you'll enjoy my anime content and gaming content as well. I do a lot of anime top 10s and discussions, and with the gaming channel I play Pokemon and everything Nintendo. Also follow me on social media so you get updates about when I go live on Twitch or when I upload in general. Links for all that will be in the description below. If you want to support me even further in Game Club perks, check out my Patreon. These lovely people have all given me their support over there and I couldn't be more grateful to them. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mystic Umbreon and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.